Proximity. The new advantage is getting closer to the moment of demand. Based on my recent interview with Kai-Han Krippendorf, author of Outthink the Competition and the forthcoming Proximity. The second in a three-part series drawn from that conversation. I recently caught up with Kai-Han Krippendorf, the author of 6 great books, including one of my favorites, Outthink the Competition. He told me about his new book, called Proximity, and as he started to explain it, it really got my attention. It's a genuinely different lens on strategic thinking, and one I appreciated. Here's the main idea. Kai-Han's starting point is that so much is changing at once: AI, cheaper sensors everywhere, an explosion of data, robotics, 3D printing, that it's easy to feel overwhelmed. But he argues that all of it points to a single shift, which he calls proximity. Value gets created closer and closer to the moment of demand in both time and space. The old model is under pressure. For most of business history, you created value by combining things ahead of time: sourcing, manufacturing, assembly, distribution. You produced in one place, stockpiled, and pushed product through a supply chain toward the customer. The further you push that model, the more efficient it looked. That instinct is now working against you. The old move was to combine everything early and hope demand showed up. The new one, in Kai-Han's words, is to wait and wait and wait until you know there's real demand, and then you combine. Same value, created much closer to the moment it's actually needed. 2 ways to look at it. Proximity takes many forms across every sector, so it doesn't reduce to a neat formula. But when you're deciding where to act, 2 angles are the most useful, and it helps to hold them apart. The first is proximity of time, combining things quickly so value comes together closer to the moment the customer needs it. Kai-Han's line stuck with me. You don't have to get all the way there, you just have to get 30 seconds ahead of your competition. That's what Uber understood. It didn't sell a faster car, it sold the feeling that your car started coming the instant you tapped confirm. McDonald's plays the same game on time. From the moment you're hungry to the moment you're back on the road, it's minutes. The winner is whoever collapses that gap. The second is proximity of location, combining things close to where they're needed instead of far away and far in advance. Food grown in vertical farms near the point of demand. Replacement parts. 3D printed at centers close to where they're installed, rather than warehoused as thousands of SKUs. The Coca-Cola Freestyle machine is the clean example, combining syrup and soda right there in front of you instead of in a bottling plant hundreds of miles away. Same underlying shift, 2 different gaps to close. For a lot of businesses, and especially service businesses, the time gap is the bigger prize, the version I saw in our own firm. Kai-Han walked me through this using our own business, and it changed how I see what we do. He asked me to name the exact moment the need shows up for a client. It's usually a CEO walking out of a meeting that went badly, frustrated, thinking there has to be a better way. That's the moment of demand. Then he asked me to picture the walk from the boardroom back to that CEO's office. What if in the time it takes to walk down the hall, we could combine the 6 or 7 things we bring to a client? The research, the financials, the team dynamics, the IP, so they sit down already clear and confident? Today, there's a real gap between that moment and when we can engage. The need surfaces on a Tuesday, and the work happens at the next scheduled session, maybe monthly, maybe quarterly. Proximity says close that gap and synchronize with the client while the issue is still live, while they're still walking down that hall. Same expertise, delivered far closer to the moment it's needed. That's proximity of time, and it has almost nothing to do with location. What this means for your business. For mid-market CEOs, the point isn't that you need 3D printing or an AI stack. The strategic question is simpler and more urgent. Where is the gap between what you deliver and when and where your customers actually need it? That gap, in time or in location, is both your biggest vulnerability and your clearest path to growth. The companies winning right now aren't the ones with the best products. They're the ones closest to the specific need at the specific moment for this customer right now. That's harder than standardizing an offering and pushing it through a channel. but it builds stickier relationships, better margins, and growth that compounds instead of churns. It's a strategy question, not a technology question, and it starts with listening differently. Not what can we build, but what does this customer need to be true in the next 90 days, and how close to that moment can we get? Speed to relevance is replacing speed to market, and the companies that understand that now are building positions that will be very hard to attack from behind. Challenge. Map the distance between what you deliver today and when and where your best customers actually need it. Look at both gaps, time and location. Then ask what one move could close the bigger of the two in the next 90 days. That's your proximity opportunity.